by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, November 3rd, and you're listening to episode 233 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So what's been going on with me? Had a tough soccer game this morning. We ended up losing, and it was just a tough game. And our playoff standings are certainly not looking great at this point. Well, I mean, we're in the playoffs, but we went from being the first place undefeated team to dropping our last 3 games, and now we've dropped down to third place, where we'll probably end in third place. And the team that we played today, which kind of clubbed us like a baby seal, I'll talk about more about that later, is probably who we're going to be facing, unfortunately, on their field this time around, not on our field. But that's okay. Enough about my soccer campaign this year. Oh, and this is the first time in 6 weeks I haven't scored a freaking goal, which pissed me off to no end. But again, neither here nor there. I played a bit of Planetside 2 this week, and I'll talk about that in my first topic this week, in case any of you guys saw me. I was actually streaming Planetside 2, of all things. And got my little bit of WoW in and stuff like that. So I guess enough talk about me. Let's talk about actually what's in store for this week's show. So first, I want to talk about my challenge, and that was the Extra Life 2019 campaign that I undertook this past week. And I want to make sure I give some thank yous and stuff like that on that. Then after that, I want to cover the October 30th PC hotfix for Planetside 2. Really small one. Not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's worth talking about. And then also the October 31st 5th early access update for Planetside Arena. Then I'm going to finish this week talking about the other challenge that everyone has been talking about this week. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So first up this week, like I said, I want to talk about Extra Life. If you guys don't know what Extra Life is, well, first of all, this is my second year doing Extra Life. But basically, Extra Life is a fundraising program of the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And what it strives to do is basically use the gaming community to help support its 170 some odd member hospitals. And a lot of people fundraise year round, but the big thing obviously is a 24-hour gaming marathon that a lot of people do. If you guys watched me last year, I did a 12-hour gaming marathon. I couldn't do 24. But this year, I couldn't even do a 12-hour single-day gaming marathon because I'm just too busy with general life stuff in general. But I had such a good response to it last year that I felt it was very important for me to do this again this year. And some people may say, you know, why should I support Extra Life or the Children's Miracle Network hospitals themselves? Well, basically the Children's Network Miracle Hospitals provide about 32 million patient visits for about 10 million kids every year. So basically, the way you're looking at it is 10 million children have to go to one of these children's hospitals throughout any given year. And obviously, not everybody can afford their medical treatment and things like that. So, I'm not even going to get into the whole socialism talk and Medicare for all and stuff like that. That's a little too political for this type of podcast. But why in the United States kids have to pay for medical care? That's, again, I'm not going to dive into that discussion on this podcast. You want to talk to me about that personally? I'll give you my opinion personally. That's fine. But what we do through these Extra Life streaming events and just generally throughout the year is we try to raise money to help pay for these kids' treatments. Because basically, the Children's Miracle Network hospital members provided about $3.4 billion in charity care annually, which is pretty awesome. And when they've got a nice little infographic here that tells you what happens basically every hour at these hospitals. So for every hour, one of these hospitals treats 675 kids with a trauma. You figure a trauma could be a broken arm or a head injury or something like that. They treat 39 kids for diabetes. They treat 92 kids for cancer, which is the one that kind of hits me the hardest. Not that I have a child with cancer, but kids getting cancer just sucks. They also handle about 39 babies in their neonatal intensive care units, and they help pay for about 97 kids' surgeries. And again, all those stats were every hour. If you multiply that into every day, I mean, that's 16,000 kids with trauma, 935 with diabetes, over 2,200 kids with cancer, which, again, it tears at me the worst. 925 babies in the neonatal intensive care unit, and they pay for about 2,329 kids' surgeries. Again, that's every day throughout these hospitals. And I mean, if you think about it, every minute, 62 children enter one of these hospitals for treatment, which, again, it kind of crushes my heart to even think about this stuff and makes me thankful that my daughter, born completely healthy, never needed to attend one of these hospitals or do anything like that. Knock on wood that all you listeners out there don't have to deal with something like this as well. I have a family friend who had 2 children. They're in their 20s now, so they're doing very well. But they were born premature and had to be in that neonatal intensive care unit. And I don't think that our friends at the time could pay for it. And I'm hoping something like this was around back then that they could take advantage of it. But again, that's why I think something like this is very, very, very important, and why each year I undertake this Extra Life campaign. And so this past week, I pledged to do a couple nights live streaming. I streamed Planetside 2 on Tuesday, and Wednesday I streamed World of Warcraft on Thursday. And thanks to a bunch of you generous listeners out there, I was not only able to hit my goal, which I originally matched last year's goal of just $100. I'm not looking to, break the bank with thousands upon thousands of dollars donated to me, but want to make some sort of small difference if I can and get folks to donate. And so last year I did 100. This year I started with 100 as well. Within that first night, I had already crushed that $100 goal, thanks to listeners like Baloney Coma, Shactus, and Crackle. And then on the second night of streaming, I had increased my goal to 150, and that got crushed by Lex and Catgirl VS. And so then I bumped it up to 200, and then Drew, she's freaking ex-developer, sorry, Drew, of Planetside 2 jumped in and hit my goal there. And so the next day I'm like, well, I got to raise it again. And I ultimately raised it to 225. And then bam, on the night I was streaming World of Warcraft, Gelos and Fireman both jumped into the channel and made donations to put me over $225. And then on my World of Warcraft night, I said, I'm going to create a new character. I rolled a brand new mage. And I said, whatever level I hit at the end of the night is the amount of dollars I'm going to donate to my own campaign. I hit level 10 in 2 hours of play. So I donated another 10. And then along with an extra anonymous donation of $5, I wish you'd tell me who you were so I could thank you personally. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, my final goal, or my final pledged amount from my listeners and everybody else who jumped on board, was $255, more than double what I had originally set as my goal. So Everybody that I just listed, Baloney Coma, Shactus, Crackle, Lex, Catgirl VS, Drew, Gelos, Fireman, and the anonymous listener, and myself, I guess. I sent you all what I thought was a pretty heartfelt thank you message today via email. Hope you guys get that and know that I wrote that myself. That's not a canned message that came from the Extra Life campaign. So I can't thank you guys enough for even thinking of me or even considering making a donation to my little corner of Extra Life and my streaming adventure through all this. And I can't thank you guys enough for what you did. And I'm excited to see where this goes in 2020. I got the email today from Extra Life that they've raised $9.6 million alone in 2019. So everybody who I just mentioned, you guys were all part of that. And just so you all know, if you missed out on my live stream and think that the Extra Life campaign is something that you would like to get behind, know that my fundraising page is going to be open through December 31st. So if you go to instantactionpodcast.com and you go to the page that hosts this week's podcast, episode 233, and if you wanted to make a donation because you didn't get to during my streams, you can actually go on there and do that all the way through December 31st. In fact, during last year's campaign, I did Reddit Secret Santa, and my Santa made a donation to Extra Life, which was pretty damn awesome, I have to say. So again, don't think that just because you missed out on the live streaming that I did, that you can't donate if you wanted to, because again, that's going to be up until December 31st. And again, thank you to everybody who did donate. And thank you if you're thinking about donating. This is what I think is probably one of the most worthwhile causes out there. And that's why I do it. And maybe some of you listening to my voice will think about doing it yourselves next year and hitting up some of your friends and family to help support Extra Life. Again, kids in hospitals really breaks my heart. And I think that I don't donate a lot. I know my wife donates a lot, but there aren't a ton of things or different causes that I like to get behind. But Extra Life is definitely one that I get off my ass and get behind every year, and plan to do it next year as well, regardless of whether I'm still podcasting or not. So look out for that. I did also catch the streaming bug, so I think I might try to do a little more streaming in the future on stuff like that. But that's enough about Extra Life. Again, thank you to everybody who donated. And if you did want to donate and missed out, you still can. You can go and check this week's show for a link to donate. And thank you. So second up this week was the October 30th PC hotfix for Planetside 2. Now, this was a client-only hotfix. There was no downtime for it whatsoever, which was really being pushed out to address stability, performance, and anti-cheat improvements within the game itself. One interesting thing that goes along with this is that Andy Seitz said the team is continuing to prioritize addressing these types of issues on a more frequent cadence. So that means they're looking to publish stability, performance, and anti-cheat improvements much more frequently. So I would expect that we'd see a lot more of these hot fixes coming down the road with no server downtime to try to help the game play a little better and deal with cheating a little better and stuff like that. So if they want to keep pushing out hot fixes, once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'm all for it if it's going to make it a better game itself. He goes on to say that they're also working on new features and content. We still don't know what those new features and content are, but obviously if we're going by what Rel has stated in the past or on the last game update, he said that they're working on Sanctuary and mandates at this time. So I'm wondering if that's the new features and content that they're talking about. There's been absolutely no talk about Osher in a long time, and I kind of wonder what the state of that was. That was definitely something that I was going to ask Rel when I had him on the podcast that got canceled, but we'll have to see. What I'd really like to see, if the devs are listening, is a dev live stream. I mean, it's been a couple weeks now since the layoffs. Rejiggering must have been completed within the company at this point, where you know who's working on what and things like that. I think that it would be a very nice, maybe an olive branch to the community at this point, if we had a dev live stream that featured Andy Seitz in the middle, it featured Rel on one side, and it featured Cardo on the other side, and the three of them talked about everything that's coming to Planetside 2, everything that's coming to Planetside Arena, and answered all the community's questions regarding it live on stream as well. I think that that would go a huge way towards, kind of quelling some of the concerns that people have about the state of Planetside 2 and Planetside Arena at this time. Granted, it might be a hate session against Planetside Arena, but I think you got to take the good with the bad at this point, because I feel like the community is really left in the dark right now about what's going on at Daybreak Games with the Planetside titles at this point. Even though the producer's letter answered a lot of stuff and gave a lot of information, that specter of Planetside 3 is still kind of hanging over everybody's heads. And with that, people are thinking Planetside 2 might be going away and everything's going to be focused on Planetside Arena. And again, I really think now is the time for a dev live stream to kind of get that stuff up front. But I know I kind of transitioned away from the hotfix itself, so let's cover this hotfix itself. So first is optimizations for visual effects that should reduce frame rate hitching. And this is specifically when effects are played for the first time. The biggest culprit for this was thumpers and incendiary ammo rounds, and they should be improved significantly regarding less frame rate hitching. They also provided some stability improvements, which included fixes for several of the most common client crashes. They don't tell us what those client crashes were, but they know what they are better than we do, I suppose. They also implemented several fixes for waypoint on-screen HUD positioning, which should address the indicator moving incorrectly when waypoints are at extreme distances, and improve screen edge positioning for indicators that are behind players. I understand this one because it affects me a lot when there's a really far away waypoint and it seems like it's behind you, even though you know you're heading towards it. I don't think that affected existing players as much as it would affect new players to the game itself, but still something definitely worth fixing. And finally, they rolled out some more anti-cheat improvements, including the latest Battle Eye updates, which includes new security advances and compatibility fixes for Windows 10. So again, this was all just a client-only hotfix. We didn't get taken down at all. And that's all live on Planetside 2 right now. But that's it for the Planetside 2 news. Let's move on to our third topic and some Planetside Arena talk. Because on October 31st, we got the 5th early access update for Planetside Arena. And this early access update brought a lot of things that players who haven't played Planetside Arena, and I saw all this all over Twitter, people were like, holy shit, that wasn't in the game already? And some of those included, they added a squad quick chat feature. Pressing V brings up the menu to issue a voice command to your squad. And they added a squad text chat feature. If you press enter, it's going to bring up a window to chat within your squad itself. And those were the biggest ones that people were like, wait, this game didn't come with that stuff already? I saw quite a few people tweeting that, and they seem pretty incredulous that wasn't in-game already. But those are in Planetside Arena now. Moving on with game updates, they improved the animation in Origin for throwing grenades. They added some new animations for class abilities, utilities, and tools. They added a new visual model for the Medic Shield Recharge deployable. They increased the speed for Decimator rockets to make it a bit easier to hit long-range targets. I will agree with this one that it bugged me to no end that the Decimator rockets seemed a little slow and the trajectory was a little wonky for trying to lob those in to hit longer range tanks. So I am happy to see that changed. They also improved ballistics server validation, which should reduce instances of rejected shots or perceived hit reg issues. And that obviously that's a big one to have in there because you don't want hit reg issues in a first-person shooter. And then an odd one, but they added Russian language support, and cue all the Daybreak Games conspiracy theorists on that one. Then there were some bug fixes dropped in this one as well. So they first fixed an issue where characters could fire certain weapons at enemies despite being fully protected by an engineer shield. And I ran into this one when I was playing in the, not this weekend's, but the weekend before's massive mode where they tried to get a bunch of people playing it and didn't. I felt like there were instances where I could shoot enemies through the engineer's shield, so glad to see that this is fixed. Next, the revive timer now shows the revive nearest to completing when multiple teammates are attempting to revive the same player. The first-person camera is now in the intended position after ending the previous match holding a power weapon. Didn't notice this one, but good to see that being fixed. They fixed a magazine that appears to float during the reload animation for the Maw. You no longer have to hit escape twice to exit the redeem code UI pop-up. I've noticed that I've had to hit escape twice in a lot of different menus, not just that one. So maybe that fixes all of those issues. And then finally, the female engineer helmets no longer appear to incorrectly rotate at certain distances. I guess that would be the Exorcist mod. I know, bad joke. Halloween was last week. What do you want from me? But those are all the bug fixes that they pushed out for Planetside Arena. Now, does that mean more people are playing the game? No, I'm sorry. It's still very low on the number of people. I'm hoping that we're going to be seeing the stuff that they've promised in the fourth quarter of 2019 soon. I mean, they talked about Sunderdome, they talked about solos, they talked about new guns and suit mods. I mean, we did get some new suit mods because they released that new bundle. Not the new bundle, but the new loot box that had a bunch of new stuff in it. But they also said holiday events. And I mean, we just had Halloween. I'm surprised there was no Halloween holiday event, but maybe they're gearing up for a Christmas holiday event. That's the only thing that I can think of, unless they want to do a Thanksgiving turkey shoot event. I mean, that's possible. But now that October is over, October is the first month in fourth quarter, so we're already a third of the way through the fourth quarter, and the majority of the stuff that is supposed to come in the fourth quarter, we haven't even seen yet. I mean, we haven't even seen them try to demo anything regarding Sunderdome mode, and I think that's a new mode system is something people are actually looking for to potentially come back and play the game a little bit more. I mean, everybody that I talk to says they're not playing Planetside Arena at all. So I do think some big splash needs to hit Planetside Arena if they're going to get more people into it at this point. But there you have the entire 5th early access update for Planetside Arena, and we'll see what they have next time around. But with that, let's move on to our fourth and final topic this week. And that last topic is the other quote-unquote challenge that has been on the tips of everyone's tongue this past week. And if you've been living under a rock, Sirius, who, if you don't know, has his own YouTube channel, does a lot of training videos and other various videos for Planetside 2. I don't always agree with everything that Sirius puts out there, but I do still think that some of the stuff that he puts out there is pretty valuable for newer players coming into the game. Explains a lot of class stuff, explains a lot of general Planetside 2 stuff. It's a decent resource for the newer player that's come to the game. If you want to be an advanced player, I don't know if that's where you want to go, but that's okay. But enough of stroking his ego for that, because let's talk about the challenge itself. So he was challenged not too long ago. I think it was by a user Billawan to produce a 5 KD 2 KPM. So that's a 5 kill death ratio and a 2 kill per minute over a extended gameplay period. And Sirius, I'm going to say, took the bait, because this isn't something he needed to do. And in some circles, I think doing it is making him look bad, especially putting out an entire video regarding it. But he took the bait and was able to produce a 5 KD 2 KPM video. And the first thing that I'm going to say about that is fucking congrats, man. I wish that I could produce a 5 KD 2 KPM in any of my gameplay sessions. I am happy that all my characters are in a positive KD. I mean, I have no illusions that I'm a bad player at Planetside 2. I understand that. I don't play Planetside 2 to be the be-all, end-all seal clubber or, anything like that. I understand that. That's why I enjoy playing the engineer class, which has a lot of utility within the game itself. I feel that I'm best at Planetside 2 helping other players be better. And as a result, I can only dream of a 5 KD. So fucking hats off to you for producing a 5 KD 2 KPM. It colored me impressed on that, because there are definitely people in the game that can do that. I don't think that there's a lot of people in the game that can do that. Some of the highly skilled players, for sure. And the fact that you were able to produce that, again, I can't say that I'm impressed enough, because I truly, truly am that you did it. Now, the rest of the video that you put out, I feel like I need to just tell people that the video exists and provide them with a link. So I will. If you have not seen Sirius's video, you can find it on Reddit. You can also find it on this week's show notes. There will be a link to his video so that you can watch it in its entirety. Now, the video is like an hour and a half long. Don't worry. He does not talk for an hour and a half. It's only about 29, less than a half hour of him talking. And the rest, the other hour, is all gameplay where there's no voiceover and you don't have to worry about watching it if you don't want to. If you're curious about watching him play, then you can by all means watch all hour and a half of it. I don't think most people are watching all hour and a half of it, but that's fine. It's pretty impressive video though, from what I've been watching. And again, I measure a lot by KD, so being able to kick out a 5 KD, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm pretty impressed, but I feel like I can't make a lot of points about his video because I don't want to come off as being biased. And the reason that I don't want to come off as being biased is because one of the outfits that he trashes through a good portion of his video is B-Way. And that's Bushido Way outfit on Emerald. Now, I am not a member of Bushido Way, but I am a member of L-Way, which is the official name for that, is Learning the Bushido Way. And it is the sub-outfit of B-Way, where players who have not completed the requirements to join B-Way are kind of funneled into. Now, I know shades. I like shades. I hold no, animosity for not being in B-Way. I know that my stats in game are not B-Way, quote unquote, specific, not good enough to be in B-Way. Now, L-Way plays closely with B-Way, and that's fine. And again, I feel like I can't say too much about his comments against B-Way because I don't want people to claim that I'm biased because I play with B-Way a lot. And I don't want people calling me a hypocrite for defending B-Way players or anything like that. I play with B-Way because they took me in when my Vanu character had nowhere to go. and they let me play in their Elway outfit, and they love me playing as engineer because it helps some of their players be better players. I'm a damn good engineer, if I do say so myself. So again, I can't talk too much about his feelings about B-Way and stuff like that because I don't want to come across as, a shill for B-Way or hypocritical because I'm defending B-Way or things like that. The only thing that I will say is that I think he was a little too harsh on his criticism of B-Way, and I'm going to leave it at that. Instead, if you would like a full and complete rebuttal regarding Sirius's video, if you want to see again, I recommend you go and you watch his video, get his information from it, make your own opinion from it. But if you want to see a complete and total rebuttal to it, I'm also going to link Lex's video this week because on a live stream, he played Sirius's entire video and responded to his points counterpoint by counterpoint. And explained his thoughts regarding Sirius, where he agreed with him, where he disagreed with him, where he called him a retard, and things like that. So, again, I want you to make your own opinion regarding it. As for the challenge, just to recap it, Sirius, I'm wicked impressed with your stats on this. You may not be happy with them because of how you got there, but I think the 5KD, 2KPM is pretty impressive in my book. But again, I know that I'm just a shitter within Planetside too. And again, if you want to see a good rebuttal regarding it, go watch Lex's video, which I will also include. All right, but let's wrap things up there and let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
All right, no voicemails, no emails this week. It was a quiet week. The only thing I got was somebody saying that I had to go watch Sirius's video and I had to talk about how Sirius was right. I'll say I'm impressed with his stats on that, and that's about as far as that I'm going to go. But other than that, no emails, no voicemails this week, and that's fine. I was completely focused on Extra Life, so that's fine. But that's going to be it for this week's show. How can you get in touch with me, the show itself? First off, my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. You can also email me at instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can call me and leave me a voicemail at 347-4VM-4PS2. That's 347-486-4772. And you can also follow the show on Twitter at InstActPodcast. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. But finally, thanks for listening and keep spamming that join combat, formerly known as Instant Action button. Derringer out.